Do you believe you're past the age of making a significant life change? What if I told you that most of the people who are millionaires today were completely broke after 40? Yes, that sounds impossible, almost absurd, but it's the truth. Because poverty isn't a lack of money, it's a mental pattern. It's a silent program controlling every decision, every emotion, and every reaction you have towards money, without you even realizing it. And until you rewrite that program, no promotion, investment, or bonus will move you forward. Today, I'm going to show you how to break this cycle and transform your financial life after 40 years of age, even if it feels too late. But pay attention, this video isn't about working harder. It's about how to reprogram your mind to create wealth, even when the world tells you it's too late. I vividly remember a time when I believed the problem was the world outside me. I'd look at my bank account and think, if only I had a better salary, everything would be different. But it wasn't the salary, it was my mind. I was programmed to lose, to repeat patterns of scarcity without even realizing it. And the most dangerous part is that this programming is invisible. It's embedded in the phrases you've repeated since childhood, in the beliefs you heard from your parents, in the limitations society taught you to accept as truth. How many times have you said or heard, "Money doesn't buy happiness. You have to be born with a silver spoon in your mouth to be rich," or "Those who get rich do so by exploiting others"? These phrases infiltrate your mind like viruses and shape your perception of reality. They define what you believe you deserve. And what you believe you deserve is precisely what your subconscious mind will create. Because your mind doesn't work with what you wish for. It works with what you believe to be true. That's why, even if you say, "I want to be rich," if there's an inner voice telling you, "Money is hard to come by," your brain will sabotage any attempt to prosper. You can work harder, study more, take courses, change jobs. Nothing truly changes. The same problem appears in a different form. The same obstacle returns, the same unexpected bill arrives. It seems like bad luck, but it's a pattern. It's your mental software ensuring you live exactly what you believe you deserve. I lived through this cycle. I worked hard, but the money just disappeared. It was like trying to hold sand through my fingers, and I'd ask myself, what's wrong with me? I wasn't lazy. I worked harder than many people, but something kept me stuck. It was then that I realized I was operating from an internal image of failure. I didn't see myself as someone capable of prospering. And until I changed that image, nothing external would change. Think for a moment. How many times have you received extra money, a bonus, a commission, a tax refund, and a few days later that money simply vanished? It's as if something inside you says, "This isn't for me." And without realizing it, you find ways to get rid of it. An unforeseen expense pops up. An urgent-seeming cost emerges out of nowhere. It's not a coincidence, it's programming. The mind always seeks to return to the state it considers normal, even if that normal is scarcity. If you want to change your financial life after 40, you need to understand that the problem isn't external. It's not the economy, the government, your boss, or the market. The problem and the solution are within you. Everything you experience today is merely a reflection of what you believe is possible. And perhaps this is the most uncomfortable point to accept because it means taking full responsibility for your own reality. But it's also liberating, because if you were the one who created scarcity, then you are also the one who can create abundance. Change begins by recognizing what you've been repeating for years. Observe your words. Listen to what you say when you talk about money. Words are mental codes. Saying "I can't afford it" is completely different from saying "How can I afford it?" The first blocks your mind, the second invites it to find solutions. From now on, every phrase you utter is a command to your subconscious. Choose carefully what you are instructing your mind to believe. And there's a simple exercise I used at the beginning of my own transformation. Take a piece of paper and write down all the negative phrases you repeat about money. All of them uncensored. Read them aloud. You'll realize how much mental clutter you carry with you. Then replace each one with a new affirmation. In the beginning, your brain will resist. It will feel like a lie to say, "I am prosperous. I deserve abundance. Money flows easily to me." But over time, the repetition begins to reprogram your neural connections. And when that happens, something shifts. You start thinking differently, making different decisions, attracting people and opportunities that previously went unnoticed. It's not magic, it's neuroscience. Studies show that the human brain doesn't distinguish between a real experience and an intensely visualized one. This means that when you repeat a new belief with emotion and conviction, your subconscious begins to accept it as truth. And once it accepts, your life starts to reflect this new programming. So ask yourself, what beliefs have I been repeating for decades without realizing it? What kind of emotional relationship do I have with money? Does it cause me guilt, fear, insecurity? Or does it inspire me, motivate me, invite me to grow? Every emotion linked to money reveals a piece of your programming. And if that emotion is one of burden, guilt, or fear, it's time to rewrite the story. After 40, many people believe it's too late to change. But I guarantee you, it's precisely now that you have the advantage. Because now, you possess enough awareness, maturity, and experience to see what truly matters. Now you can look back and understand what went wrong, and more importantly, you can choose what you want to keep and what you want to let go of. The power of change lies in the decision to stop repeating the old and make space for the new. True financial transformation doesn't begin when money arrives, but when you change the way you think about it. When you understand that money isn't an enemy, but a reflection of your own energy, everything shifts. Because the external world does nothing but mirror your internal world. And if within you there exists belief, security, and purpose, outside of you prosperity will exist. For years I repeated the same story to myself, a story of limitations, of failures, of "this isn't for me." I believed there were people destined to live a life of abundance, while others like me were born to merely survive with just enough. It was an old, inherited story, passed down from generation to generation. And the most curious thing is that I didn't even realize I was repeating a narrative that wasn't even mine. I simply accepted it as truth. When that 52-year-old man told me he had spent his entire life saying, "This isn't for me," I saw in his eyes the reflection of what millions of people experience in silence. He believed his reality was permanent, that the life he had was all that remained for him. And it was at that instant, when I asked if he had ever given himself permission to be rich, that something within him broke. The tears that streamed down his face weren't of sadness. They were of relief. It was the moment he realized that the prison was never in the circumstances, but in his own beliefs. How many times have you caught yourself self-sabotaging before even trying something new? How many opportunities have you let slip away because you thought you weren't capable, that it was too late, that others were better? This is what I call the internal story. It's the voice that accompanies you every day, the one that defines what you can or cannot achieve. And most people live and die without ever questioning that voice. But I want to tell you something that can completely change the course of your financial life. The story you tell yourself is the script your subconscious will faithfully follow. If you repeat that you're not good with money, your subconscious will ensure you prove that every single day. If you believe wealth is for others, it will keep you busy working hard, but never enough to elevate your status. This narrative is like a program running in the background, invisible yet dominant. And the truth is, no one is born with a mind programmed for scarcity. We learn it. We learn by seeing our parents worried about bills, by hearing money doesn't grow on trees, by observing successful people being judged as greedy. Gradually, we associate wealth with guilt and poverty with virtue. And so we grow up believing that wanting more is wrong. And do you know what's even crueler? This belief creates a silent cycle. When you believe you can't have something, your brain doesn't even search for solutions. It erases the paths, blocks the ideas, closes the doors, and you don't even notice. So it's not the world that limits you. It's the story you've chosen to believe about the world. I recall a period in my life when I turned down opportunities because I thought I wasn't smart enough, experienced enough, or simply cut out for them. I saw other people growing, prospering, and I'd tell myself they're lucky. They know the right people. I justified others' success because it allowed me to keep my own story intact. After all, if success depended solely on me, I'd have to admit I was sabotaging myself. And that hurts. It hurts to look in the mirror and realize that the biggest obstacle has always been there, within you. But the day you realize this is the day the game changes. When you understand that you can rewrite your own story, everything around you starts to align with that new version. Because the mind doesn't differentiate imagination from reality. It merely follows the strongest emotional command. And if you begin to see yourself as worthy, capable, and deserving, your behavior changes, your decisions change, and circumstances respond. There's a psychological phenomenon called self-efficacy, studied by Albert Bandura, which proves that the simple act of believing in your own capability drastically increases the chances of success in any area of life. This explains why two people with the same skills and opportunities can have completely different results. One believes, the other doubts, and the universe responds to conviction. Changing the story you tell yourself is an act of courage, because it means abandoning the identity that has accompanied you for decades. It means saying, I deserve more, even when the world doesn't yet recognize you that way. It's accepting that you can start from scratch, that you can begin anew at 40, at 50, or at 70, because age doesn't determine your worth, only how much life you've already lived. And do you know what's fascinating? When you change your story, you change how money perceives you. It starts to flow more naturally because you stopped treating it as something distant, dirty, or difficult. You begin to see it as energy, as a result of impact, contribution, value. And when you focus on generating value, abundance becomes an inevitable consequence. Now I want you to pause for a moment and observe the story you've been telling yourself. When something goes wrong, what's the first phrase that comes to your mind? Nothing ever works out for me. I always mess everything up. These are passwords that keep the gate closed. Starting today, replace each one with new truths. I am learning to prosper. I deserve to receive more. Life is responding to my change. I know it might seem strange at first. The brain resists. It tries to pull you back to the old script. But keep going. Because repetition is the language of the mind. And each time you reaffirm a new story, you weaken the old one. And one day, without realizing it, you wake up and scarcity no longer makes sense. Opportunities appear, ideas flow, money comes in unexpected ways. All of this begins when you decide to give yourself permission. Permission to dream, to start over, to believe. Permission to see yourself as someone who not only survives but creates, inspires, and transforms. The story you tell yourself may have brought you here, but it doesn't have to keep you here. You can rewrite it. And when you do, you'll discover that it was never the world limiting you. It was just your narrative. And it's about to change. Have you ever noticed that sometimes it feels like something invisible pulls you back every time you try to climb a step in life? It's as if there's a hidden force that prevents you from going further, no matter how hard you try. This force has a name: paradigm. It's the set of beliefs, habits, and perceptions that control 95% of your actions, even when you think you're in command. The paradigm is your mind's autopilot. It determines how much you earn, the type of work you do, the people you attract, even what you believe you deserve. And the most curious thing is that it was installed without your permission way back when you were still a child, absorbing everything around you as absolute truth. For years, I was a slave to my own paradigm. I remember when I closed my first big contract. In just 1 week, I earned the equivalent of what had taken me 6 months to achieve. It was what I dreamed of. I was finally reaping the rewards of so much effort. But in less than 1 month, I lost almost everything. I started spending without thinking, taking unnecessary risks, making impulsive decisions. And it was at that moment I realized the problem wasn't a lack of money. It was my mind trying to return to its comfort zone. I still hadn't changed the image I had of myself. Inside, I was still the man who believed that success was fleeting, that easy money didn't last, and the mind always works to validate the identity you hold of yourself. That's why so many people get a raise and remain in debt. That's why someone wins the lottery, and within a few years is broke again. Studies show that about 70% of big prize winners lose everything within 5 years. This happens because unconsciously, the brain seeks to recreate the environment it considers familiar. If your paradigm is one of scarcity, you will unconsciously do everything to return to scarcity, even if it means losing everything you've gained. The paradigm is like an internal thermostat. If you adjust it to a specific emotional and financial temperature, you might even reach a higher level for a while, but if you don't change the thermostat, your own subconscious will take charge of reducing the heat. You'll spend more, procrastinate more, make wrong decisions, or create situations that bring you back to the safe level. That's why, when someone tries to change their life solely through willpower without changing their mind, that change is temporary. Willpower is conscious, but the paradigm is subconscious, and the subconscious always wins. So how do you change a paradigm? First, you need to make it visible. Observe your behavior patterns. What do you do every time you start earning more? What do you feel when someone talks about wealth? Do you feel admiration or resentment? Do you feel curiosity or fear? These emotions reveal the programming that governs your life. They show what your subconscious believes is possible or dangerous. Next, you need to replace this old pattern with a new one. And that requires repetition and emotion. That's how the brain learns. When you repeat a new belief with emotional intensity, the brain creates new neural connections, weakening the old ones. I did this daily. I repeated new truths to myself out loud. I am worthy of prosperity. I am the source of my abundance. Success is my natural state. At first it felt forced, almost a lie. But with time, my mind began to accept, and my actions started to align with this new identity. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself according to the experiences and thoughts you repeat. And psychology calls this the creative self-image. What this means is simple. You don't behave according to who you want to be, but according to who you believe yourself to be. Therefore, changing belief is more important than changing behavior. When belief changes, behavior naturally follows. I want you to imagine for a moment that your current paradigm is like a computer's operating system. You can install new programs, buy peripherals, change the wallpaper, but if the system is old, it will crash, fail, and limit everything you try to run. To live a new financial life, you need a new system. You need to reprogram your subconscious to operate on a new pattern of abundance, and this begins with awareness. It starts when you observe that it's not bad luck, nor destiny, nor circumstances that hold you back. It's the invisible pattern you've been reinforcing for decades, the same pattern that makes you spend what you don't have, postpone what you need to do, say yes when you want to say no, and repeat the same old mistakes. The same pattern that makes you accept less than you deserve because you believe asking for more is selfishness. But here's the crucial point. The paradigm only has power as long as you keep it unconscious. The moment you bring it into the light of consciousness, it weakens. Because now you can choose new ideas, new thoughts, new actions. And it is this choice, repeated with consistency, that replaces the old program. Changing the paradigm is like switching identities. It's a process, not an event. It's the act of looking in the mirror and seeing not who you are, but who you are becoming. It's stopping reacting to life and starting to create it. And when that happens, something extraordinary begins to unfold. Opportunities you didn't see before start to appear. The right people cross your path. Decisions that once seemed impossible become natural, because the world always adjusts to the image you hold of yourself. The reason so many never achieve financial stability isn't because they don't know what to do, but because they remain who they were when they failed. As long as you try to change the results without changing the paradigm, you will live in an endless cycle of ups and downs. But the moment you decide to change within, everything on the outside begins to align. And that's what differentiates those who merely survive from those who prosper. They understood that true wealth doesn't start in the pocket. It starts in the mind. Money is just a mirror of what you believe yourself to be worthy of receiving. And when you change the internal reflection, the mirror of reality has no choice but to reflect a new image, that of your prosperity. For a long time, I also believed that the secret to wealth was to work harder and harder. I grew up hearing phrases like, The early bird catches the worm, or no pain, no gain. And for years I lived trapped by this idea. I believed that if I exerted myself enough, if I worked more hours, if I accepted more responsibilities, one day I would be rewarded. But the more I worked, the more tired I became, and curiously, money never seemed to match my effort. I saw people who worked half as much as I did, living with more freedom, more time, more abundance, and that left me confused. It felt unfair, until I realized it wasn't injustice. It was ignorance. I had been following a model of success that simply never worked. The world teaches us that the path to prosperity is to fight, to resist, to constantly strive, to burn ourselves out. But the real problem is that this mindset stems from scarcity. When you work merely to pay the bills, you're operating on the frequency of survival, and survival doesn't create wealth. It only keeps you breathing. I learned the hard way that physical effort without direction is like rowing against the current. A lot of motion, little progress. The truth is that most people confuse effort with productivity. They believe that the busier they are, the closer they are to financial freedom. But freedom isn't born of exhaustion. It's born of intelligence. Working hard is important, but what changes the game is working with purpose, with clarity, and with strategy. Because what truly transforms isn't how much you do, but why and how you do it. I've known men and women who dedicated 30 years of their lives to the same job, waiting for recognition that never came. People who traded their time for money, believing that stability was security. But stability without growth is just a disguised form of stagnation. And the saddest part is that many discover this too late, when they realize they sacrificed their entire lives for something that never brought them fulfillment. I remember a friend, an honest, hard-working man, who woke up at 4 in the morning every day to work in a factory. He put in overtime, sacrificed weekends and holidays. When I asked him why he did it, he replied, "Because I want to ensure my family never goes without." But what he didn't realize was that while he was trying to secure the future, he was selling off the present. He believed that effort was synonymous with progress, but undirected effort is just wear and tear. If it were true that working hard brings wealth, then masons, cleaners, and drivers would be the world's millionaires. These people work harder than any executive. They put their bodies to the test every single day, yet they remain trapped in the same cycle. Not for lack of merit, but because wealth has never been a matter of physical effort. It has always been a matter of consciousness. Money doesn't respond to fatigue, it responds to intention, and intention only manifests when there is clarity. When you understand the purpose behind what you do, every action begins to yield more. When you work with wisdom, one right move is worth more than 100 impulsive actions. That's why some people seem lucky. They don't work more. They work smarter. They learn to use their mind as their primary tool for creation. I remember when I learned this lesson firsthand. I used to work 10, sometimes 12 hours a day and still barely managed to pay the bills. One day a mentor asked me, "Bob, how much of your time do you spend thinking about how to create value? And how much do you spend just trying to survive?" That question hit me like a punch. I realized I spent most of my time putting out fires, solving urgencies, and almost no time thinking about building something lasting. I was so caught up in surviving that I had forgotten to create. The difference between someone who works out of necessity and someone who works with purpose is the outcome. Those who work out of necessity trade time for money. Those who work with purpose create systems that continue generating value even when they stop. This is the point where effort ceases to be slavery and becomes expansion. Today, I see clearly that the path to prosperity isn't about working more, but about raising one's level of consciousness. It's shifting the focus from effort to efficiency, from sweat to strategy, from fear to vision. Wealth is the consequence of a mind trained to see opportunities where others see obstacles. And that's why, to change your financial life after 40, you need to break the myth of hardship. You don't need to suffer to prosper. You need to align your energy with what truly matters. You need to invest your time where there's multiplication, not just maintenance. When you use your mind creatively, the universe responds with abundance because now you are acting as the creator, not as the survivor. Ask yourself, How much of what I do every day brings me closer to freedom, and how much just keeps me trapped? This is the question that separates those who continue to struggle from those who finally awaken. The world doesn't reward those who work more. It rewards those who understand the laws governing creation. And one of those laws is clear. Wealth doesn't come from exhaustion. It comes from consciousness. When you change your consciousness, work ceases to be a burden and becomes a tool. And at that moment, you realize that true power was never in the quantity of effort you make, but in the quality of the intention with which you live. I met a man named Matthew at one of my seminars in Pakistan. He was 47 years old, had 3 children, and worked as a school bus driver during the day and a security guard at night. He slept only a few hours, lived exhausted, and carried on his face the look of someone who had given up expecting anything new from life. When he told me his routine, I felt the burden he carried. It was a portrait of millions of people, tired, trapped in a cycle of constant work, believing that effort is the only way to ensure dignity. Then I asked him a simple question, but one that held a powerful truth. I asked, "Are you using the little free time you have to rest from the weight of your routine, or to create a way out of it?" He fell silent. After a few seconds, he looked at me and said, "I never thought of it that way." That conversation was the beginning of a transformation. Matthew realized that the problem wasn't a lack of opportunities, but how he was using his time. He believed he couldn't change because he was old, tired, and burdened by responsibilities. But the truth was that he had never looked at his own time as an asset. He saw it as something he needed to spend, not something he could invest. And when he understood that, everything began to change. He started studying digital marketing using an old cell phone and public internet. He didn't have a computer, nor any extra money, but he had a decision. In the first few months, he learned the basics, observed, tested, made mistakes. He used the breaks between shifts to learn something new every day. And 6 months later, he launched his first online product, a simple ebook on home security. He sold a few copies, but it was enough to realize that it worked. 2 years later, Matthew had already left both jobs. He had created a system that generated income even while he slept. This story profoundly impacted me because it shows what happens when someone decides to use creativity instead of brute force. What transforms isn't how much you work, it's how much you create. Manual labor keeps you in the present. Creation builds your future. And curiously, after 40, that's when you have the most experience to create something unique. You've lived long enough to know what works and what doesn't. You've seen the mistakes, faced the setbacks, and now you have the wisdom to build something solid, if you have the courage to start. Every day I meet people who say, "Bob, I don't know where to start." And the answer is simple. Start with what you have in your hands. Use what you know. If you cook well, you can teach someone how to cook. If you know how to deal with people, you can teach communication. If you master a craft, you can turn it into a course. Creation doesn't demand perfection. It demands presence. It's about taking something that is already a part of you and putting it at the service of the world. The problem is that many people don't feel capable of creating. They believe they need money, time, equipment, or luck. But what's truly missing is a decision. The decision to stop selling your time and start selling your value. Time is limited. Value is infinite. When you put your mind and your experience at the service of creation, you enter another level of abundance. Because creation doesn't depend on strength, it depends on vision. When Matthew understood this, he realized that financial freedom doesn't come from working less, but from working differently. He exchanged hours for ideas, and ideas are worth much more. And this is what I want you to understand. As long as you continue to believe that your time is your most precious asset, you will remain trapped. Because time is finite, but what you create from it can multiply. I lived through this myself. When I left the fire department, I had no experience, no degree, no plan. But I had one thing, a desire to create something that would free me. I started a cleaning company. Not because I understood cleaning, but because it was what I could do at that moment. And it was there that I realized a simple, universal law. The universe rewards creative action. When you take the first step with purpose, the next path always appears. Creation is a spiritual act. It's the moment you stop reacting to life and start designing your own reality. And the beauty of it is that we are all born with this capacity, but few exercise it. Because most prefer the comfort of the known, even if the known hurts. And meanwhile, they continue to waste the most valuable power they possess, the ability to transform nothing into something. After 40, many people believe it's too late to start something new. But in truth, this is the best time in life to create, because now you're not seeking approval. You're seeking purpose, and purpose is the fuel for creation. With every idea you put into practice, you start building something that doesn't depend on the clock, on orders, or on anyone but yourself. So I want you to look inward and ask yourself, what can I create with what I already know? What can I teach, produce, share? And most importantly, what's stopping me from starting? If the answer is fear, remember this. Fear is just a sign that you're about to grow. Use it as a compass. Head towards it. You don't need a perfect plan. You need one conscious step. Because creation is movement. It's deciding today that you'll no longer waste your talent, your story, and your energy living the life others expect of you. It's deciding to build something of your own. Something that carries your name, your meaning, your essence. Matthew did this, I did this, thousands of people around the world have done it, and they all started from the same place, the now. With fear, with doubts, with little, but with a purpose so clear that the universe had no choice but to respond. And when you decide to create, something magical happens. Time stops being an enemy and becomes an ally. You stop chasing and start attracting. Because now, instead of merely surviving, you are expanding. And it's in this state that true prosperity flourishes. Most people believe their problem is a lack of time, but the real issue is how that time is spent. We live in an era where distraction is the new addiction, and scarcity of focus is the new poverty. People say they don't have time to learn something new, yet they spend hours scrolling through their phone feeds, consuming content that adds absolutely nothing. They don't realize that every minute spent without purpose is a wasted seed, and every unplanted seed is a lost harvest in the future. If you look at your own routine, you'll realize there's more space than you imagine to build the freedom you so deeply desire. It's in this space, these seemingly small intervals, that a new future begins to be created. But for this, a decision is needed. A clear and non-negotiable decision to change. Because the truth is, it's not money that transforms a life, it's the decision. Money is merely a consequence of what you decide with conviction. I have seen people with few resources achieve extraordinary results because they decided unshakably that they would no longer accept living in scarcity. They decided that, from that moment on, they would do everything necessary to change. And it's impressive how the universe aligns when you decide with your whole being. Opportunities begin to appear, the right people cross your path, and you start to notice doors that were always there, but which your lack of decision kept closed. The power of decision is the seed of transformation. While you keep waiting for the perfect moment, it never arrives. You tell yourself, I'll start when I have more time, when things calm down, when I'm ready. But the right moment doesn't exist. It's created by action. Life doesn't reward those who wait. It rewards those who act. And what separates you from the life you want is a simple choice: to keep making excuses or to start acting. Fear, doubt, and procrastination are the greatest thieves of destiny that exist. How many times have you put off something you knew you needed to do? How many times have you started a project with enthusiasm only to abandon it halfway because you didn't see immediate results? The difference between those who achieve and those who dream lies in consistency. It's not about intensity, it's about constancy. Small steps taken every day create exponential results. I remember a time when my life felt stuck. I was tired, in debt, and disheartened. I wanted to change, but I also feared failure. And it was there that I realized a simple yet powerful truth. Fear doesn't disappear before action. It disappears because of action. I learned that when you take the first step, fear recedes. But when you stand still, it grows and dominates you. Fear is like a shadow. The more you run from it, the bigger it gets. But when you face it and act anyway, it dissolves. And it's at that instant that power returns to your hands. because fear only has strength as long as you feed it with inertia. Courage, on the other hand, feeds on movement. Now, I want you to look within and be honest with yourself. How much time have you dedicated to your growth? How many hours of your day are used to learn, evolve, and create something new? And how many are wasted on distractions, complaints, or comparisons? The answer to these questions reveals how committed you truly are to your change. That's why, if you've made it this far and are feeling that this content is awakening something within you, I want you to take action now. Not tomorrow. Now. Take a deep breath and decide that you will take the next step. Decide that you will change the way you use your time, that you will transform your focus into discipline and your discipline into results. And since you are here listening to me, committed to learning, I want to invite you to be part of something bigger. If this message is resonating within you, if it's making you think, reflect, perhaps even feel emotional, then it means you are ready. So, do this now. Subscribe to the channel and hit like. This might seem like a simple action, but it is the symbol of your decision. It's the moment you transform intention into movement. Every great change begins with one small yet conscious act. This is how you send a message to the universe saying, "I am ready." And the universe always responds to readiness. I have seen this happen thousands of times. Ordinary people who decided to act began to attract opportunities that once seemed unreachable. Because when you change your frequency, everything around you adjusts. You don't need to wait to feel courageous to act. Action is what creates courage, and courage is what opens the way. Decide today to be the person who does, not the one who waits, who builds, not who complains. Because in the end, the difference between those who transform their own lives and those who remain in the same place isn't in the conditions, it's in the decision. And your decision to act now can be the exact point where your new life begins. Jim Carrey has always been an example that deeply impressed me. Before he became one of the highest paid actors in the world, he lived in conditions many would consider impossible to overcome. He and his family lived in a car. There was no glamour, no prospects, no security, but there was something within him that kept him believing in something greater. And it was that belief that changed everything. Once, he wrote himself a check for $10 million, with the description, "For acting services rendered," dated for the future. He kept this check in his wallet, and every time he looked at it, he imagined himself receiving that amount. He didn't just dream, he believed, visualized, and felt. Years later, when he starred in a major film, the contract amount was precisely the same. And some people call that a coincidence, but I call it the law of cause and effect. This story isn't about money, it's about identity. Jim didn't wait for success to believe he was worthy of it. He believed beforehand. And that's precisely where most people get lost. They want to see to believe, but the universe only responds when you believe to see. The human mind is a factory of realities, and everything that exists began as a thought sustained with faith and emotion. When you believe in something intensely, your brain starts acting in accordance with that new reality, even before it physically exists. Your attitudes change, your words change, and little by little the external world begins to adjust to your new internal state. The problem is that most people live in reactive mode. They wait for conditions to change before changing their way of thinking. But that's like waiting for a mirror to smile before you smile at it. Life always reflects what you emit. When Jim Carrey wrote that check, he was planting a seed in the field of the mind. And the field of the mind is fertile, but it only germinates when you feed the idea with emotion, conviction, and consistency. I saw this happen in my own life. When I started my cleaning company, I had nothing. No formal education, no money, no contacts. But I believed with a force that went beyond logic. I saw myself leading people, creating something great, helping other lives to prosper. I didn't know how it would happen, but I felt it was real. And it was this feeling that guided my actions. Ideas began to emerge, the right people appeared, and before I knew it, I was earning more in 1 year than I had dreamed of earning in 1 decade. The difference wasn't in the circumstances. It was in the image I carried within myself. The mind doesn't distinguish between what is real and what is intensely imagined. That's why visualizing with emotion is one of the most powerful tools there is. When you imagine, feel, and act as if you are already the person you wish to become, you create new neural connections that begin to transform your behavior and, consequently, your results. Neuroscience proves that the brain molds itself according to what you repeat with emotion. It's what scientists call neuroplasticity. This means that every time you visualize a desired future with conviction, you are literally reprogramming your brain to believe that future is possible, and the brain, once convinced, actively begins to seek out the opportunities that will make it real. That's what Jim Carrey did. He didn't just dream, he conditioned his mind to live in the future he wanted to create. But it's important to understand that visualization alone isn't enough. It needs to be accompanied by inspired action. Jim didn't just stand around waiting for the check to materialize. He studied, worked, honed his craft, and persisted when no one believed in him. Belief paved the way, but action walked it. And that's the combination that transforms the invisible into the tangible. Faith and momentum. Many people make the mistake of imagining success as something distant, a prize reserved for a select few. They look at those who've won and think, he just got lucky. But luck is what we call preparation meeting opportunity, and preparation begins within you, in the decision to believe before there's any proof. When you look at the lives of people who've turned the impossible into reality, you'll notice one common thread. They acted as if they were already what they wanted to be. They dressed, behaved, and thought in alignment with the version of themselves that had already achieved success. Because they understood that the universe responds to coherence. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And perhaps that's the most important lesson I've learned in life. Everything you want already exists in potential, but it only becomes accessible when you align yourself with the vibration of what you desire. This means living in a state of faith, not waiting. When you live waiting, you're emitting a frequency of lack, of absence. When you live believing, you're emitting a frequency of possession, of fulfillment. And that's why those who believe deeply attract, while those who doubt repel. So, if you want to change your financial life after 40, start acting like someone who already lives in abundance. Imagine yourself debt-free, investing wisely, helping others with what you earn. Feel the emotion of it. Live that scene every day until it becomes familiar. Because when your brain accepts this as your new reality, your behavior will automatically align, and the universe will begin to respond. Jim Carrey was no different from you. He simply believed enough to act, and that's what separates dreamers from doers. Life doesn't reward the skeptic, it rewards the committed. And when you decide to believe with all your heart, the whole world adjusts to prove you were right to do so. I've seen people who achieved everything they dreamed of, and lost it all because they ignored a simple principle. Active income has an expiration date. It's like a lit candle. As long as you're present, it shines. But when the wind changes, it goes out. And that's why so many fall after rising. MC Hammer is a classic example of this. One of the biggest artists of the 90s, he earned more than $30 million from his music, fame, and tours. The whole world sang his lyrics. He had mansions, cars, private planes, and it seemed like nothing could stop him. But what brought him down wasn't a lack of talent or bad luck. It was the absence of financial intelligence. He lived as if the flow of money would be eternal. Every dollar that came in was immediately spent to sustain an image, not a structure. There was no foundation. He believed his income rhythm would be the same forever, without understanding that the body tires, the market shifts, and popularity evaporates. When fame dwindled, the income ceased, and with it, everything he had built vanished. This happens all the time with famous and anonymous people. The only difference is the stage where the collapse occurs. Some lose millions in front of cameras, others lose their peace silently within their homes. Because the mistake is the same, depending solely on a source that demands your constant presence. When your body, your voice, or your time are the sole engine of your income, you are at risk. And that risk grows every year, especially after 40, when fatigue is real, when the market starts to prefer the younger, the cheaper, the faster, And if you haven't built something that works without you, you will inevitably feel the fall. I recall a conversation I had at a seminar with a former American basketball player. He told me that, at the peak of his career, he earned about $5 million per season. But when he retired, he discovered that the lifestyle he led cost more than any investment he had made. He didn't have a system. He only had a history of deposited checks. When the seasons ended, the flow of money also ended. And it was then that he realized the real game was never on the court, but in his mind. He told me with tears in his eyes, "I worked my whole life to be free and I ended up a prisoner of money." That phrase never left my mind. The truth is that wealth isn't how much you earn, it's how much keeps coming in without you needing to be there. It's the money that arrives when you sleep, travel, rest, or even get sick. That's the difference between the slave of effort and the creator of systems. The wealthy think in terms of structure. They don't ask, "How much can I earn this month?" but rather, "How can I create something that keeps paying me even when I stop?" They build businesses, investments, products, copyrights, patents, properties. Each of these things is a seed that grows and bears fruit, even when they are absent. But make no mistake, creating passive income streams isn't luck or magic. It's awareness. It's stopping thinking only about receiving and starting to think about building. It's understanding that every talent, every experience, and even past pains can be transformed into something that generates continuous value. And it doesn't matter if you are 40, 50, or 60 years old. The wisdom you've accumulated so far is your greatest asset. You've lived long enough to know what you no longer want, and that is power. Now, imagine putting that wisdom into an online course, a book, a channel, a digital product, a consultancy, an investment, something that works while you live, and even after. I learned this the hard way myself. In the beginning, I also believed that success depended only on my work, my voice, my lectures. But one day, while traveling from city to city, I realized that if I stopped for 1 week, my income would also stop. That scared me. I understood that I was making precisely the same mistake I warned others not to commit. So I started systematizing my knowledge, recording trainings, writing books, creating programs that could help others even without my presence. And it was at that moment that freedom began. When money stopped coming only from the hours I worked and started coming from the ideas I multiplied. Wealth is the reflection of what you build beyond yourself. Therefore, never confuse work with productivity, nor occupation with progress. Many spend their entire lives working hard and die exhausted but never free. The secret is to work intelligently, to create, automate, teach, multiply. It's investing time in something that continues to grow even when you're not looking. It's like planting a tree. In the beginning, the effort is great, but over time it grows, puts down roots, and provides shade and fruit for decades. Now stop and think. If you disappeared today, how long would your income continue to come in? 1 month? 1 week? 1 day? If the answer is none, then you're living the same pattern as MC Hammer, just on a different scale. And that's the warning. Because it's not about fame, but about mental and financial structure. As long as you depend solely on your labor, you'll be trapped in the wheel of effort. And that wheel doesn't forgive fatigue nor age. Money that works for you is the only thing that guarantees freedom. It's what buys time, peace of mind, and dignity. It's what allows you to live with purpose without the desperation of survival. And the curious thing is that this doesn't require a miracle, it just requires a decision. To stop being an employee of your own fear and start being the architect of your own system. Because in the end, it's not the money that disappears, it's the people who don't build anything that can last. Fear is the most silent prison there is. It doesn't scream, it doesn't appear suddenly. It infiltrates gradually with subtle thoughts disguised as common sense. Perhaps not now. What if it doesn't work out? Better wait a little longer. These phrases are the invisible chains that hold millions of people in the same place for years. And the crueler thing is, the longer you spend listening to that voice, the more real it seems. Fear doesn't destroy all at once. It corrodes. It gradually erases your ability to act, little by little. I distinctly remember an episode that marked my life. I had prepared a consulting proposal for a business group in Chicago. I spent days elaborating every detail, reviewing every piece of data, imagining the impact it would have. I sincerely believed that project could open a new phase in my career. When I finally presented it, the leader at the table looked at me with a mix of boredom and disdain, and he simply said, "This is too basic. You're not ready." That phrase cut through me like a blade. I felt my body freeze, my face flush, my heart tighten. I left that place feeling small, defeated, almost humiliated. On the way back, on the plane, I looked out the window and wondered if I had been mistaken about myself. Was I deluding myself? Was everything I believed just vanity? The voice of fear began to whisper, and every word seemed to make sense. Give up. You've gone too far. Don't put yourself out there again. It was one of the longest trips of my life. When I got home, I sat in silence for hours, not knowing what to do. But deep down, another, much softer voice told me, what if he's wrong? What if you're the one who needs to believe a little more? The next day, I decided to start over. I rewrote the entire proposal from scratch. I read it, revised it, improved every part. And then, with the same fear still pulsating inside me, I called that group again and asked for another meeting. They accepted. I went, trembling inside, but I went. And this time, when I finished, the same man who had dismissed me extended his hand and said, "This is exactly what we were looking for." We signed the contract that day. I learned something I never forgot. Fear is the last guardian before expansion. Whenever it appears, it's because you are about to cross an internal boundary. But fear doesn't only appear in big moments. It's in the small daily decisions you postpone. It's in that idea you never act on. It's in the course you dream of taking but don't feel ready for. It's in every opportunity you let slip away because you believe it's not the right time. It's what makes you hesitate to invest, to try something new, to speak up, to show yourself. And ironically, what you call prudence is often just fear disguised as responsibility. It's convincing. It makes you believe it's protecting you, when in reality it's keeping you small. Most people don't understand that fear isn't a signal to stop. It's a sign that you are alive, that something inside you wants to grow. Fear is a reminder that there's something new trying to be born. And do you know why it hurts? Because it's pushing the boundaries of what you believe you are capable of. Fear is the friction between who you are and who you are becoming. I have seen brilliant men sabotage themselves because of it, people with extraordinary ideas that never came to fruition. And when you ask why, they respond with rational arguments: lack of time, lack of money, lack of support. But behind all these excuses lies a common denominator: fear. Fear of failing, fear of being judged, fear of losing what they have, and especially fear of discovering they are greater than they ever believed themselves to be. Because growing also scares us. Facing your own power is as uncomfortable as facing weakness. A survey conducted by the University of Bath in the United Kingdom showed that more than 70% of people who wish to start a personal project or business never begin. And the main reason is the fear of failure. Most don't even know exactly what they are afraid of. It's a nebulous feeling, a diffuse sense of threat, but it's strong enough to paralyze. And while they hesitate, time passes. And with time, courage weakens, dreams grow cold, and life becomes predictable. Now think with me. How many opportunities have you let slip away? How many ideas have you buried before even trying? How many times have you given up just because you were afraid of looking ridiculous? How many doors failed to open because you didn't even try to knock? Each one of those times was a small death of your potential, and the more you feed fear, the more it grows. But there is a way out. You don't eliminate fear. You reframe it. I learned to look at fear as a lighthouse, not a wall. It shows me the path to expansion. When something causes me fear, that's where I know I must go, because that's where the next step is. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to proceed even with it. I've seen this happen in myself and in thousands of people I've mentored. Ordinary people with ordinary lives who discovered that fear was just the guardian of the treasure. A woman who dreamed of public speaking but trembled at the mere thought of it. When she finally challenged herself to step onto the stage, she realized that fear didn't disappear, but it didn't stop her either. After her first talk, she cried, not from dread, but from relief, because she discovered that fear wasn't a monster, it was a mirror. Every time you face fear, you grow, and as you grow, it shrinks. Until the day what used to paralyze you becomes merely a reminder of how much you have evolved. Fear is the price of freedom, and it's a price worth paying. Because in the end, what truly frightens isn't failing. It's looking back and realizing you never tried. Modern science has already proven what I've been saying for decades. The way you think about money determines how money thinks about you. I remember the first time I read a study from Stanford University on financial behavior. The study showed something fascinating. People with high financial self-confidence were 67% more likely to save, invest, and grow economically, even when earning less than the average. They weren't smarter, didn't have inheritances, nor privileges. The difference lay in the self-image they maintained. They believed at the deepest level that they were worthy of wealth, and this conviction shaped every one of their decisions. I've seen the same pattern countless times throughout my career. People who earned little but prospered, and others who earned fortunes but lived in constant scarcity. Money is merely a reflection of the mind that manages it. Those who see themselves as capable act as capable. Those who see themselves as unworthy unconsciously create situations that keep them limited. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you convince yourself that money is something distant, almost forbidden, your subconscious starts working to confirm that belief. It makes you miss opportunities, sabotage yourself in decisions, postpone investments, and even refuse rewards you've already earned. A case that stood out to me was that of a woman I met in Toronto. She was extremely talented, worked in design, and charged low prices for her services. When I asked why, she replied, "I feel I don't deserve to charge more." Her voice trembled as she said this. I asked her to describe what she felt when she received a payment. She answered, "Guilt. Guilt for charging. Guilt for earning." And it was this hidden guilt that prevented her from growing. What she didn't realize is that money amplifies what you are. It doesn't transform, it merely exposes. If you feel shame about earning, you will never allow your income to increase. Money is neutral. It is neither good nor bad. It merely obeys the direction of your consciousness. People who believe they are worthy of abundance behave as such. They seek knowledge, make calculated decisions, learn to invest, value their time. Those who see themselves as imposters, however, tend to shy away from the responsibility that wealth brings. This is why so many lottery winners go back to bankruptcy within a few years. A study by the National Endowment for Financial Education in the United States revealed that about 70% of people who win million-dollar prizes lose everything within up to 5 years. They don't lose the money, they lose the identity that would sustain it. Financial self-confidence is more powerful than any investment strategy. It is what determines whether you will keep what you acquire. I have seen entrepreneurs fail with the same tools that others use to get rich. The difference was internal, never external. When you believe you are capable of managing wealth, your brain seeks paths, solutions, connections, and opportunities that confirm this vision. The opposite is also true. If you believe money is difficult, unfair, or dirty, your brain becomes an expert at losing. Neuroscience calls this confirmation bias. It is the tendency to filter reality, to find evidence that supports what you already believe. If you believe you will never prosper, your brain will become a radar for everything that proves this belief. It will notice debts, crises, the failures of others. It will ignore opportunities, ideas, invitations, signs of growth. It's as if you were using a lens that only sees scarcity, but if you change the lens, you change the world. I remember an experiment I conducted in one of my mentoring programs. I asked a group of students to write the phrase, "I am an excellent money manager," every morning for 30 days. I asked them not to analyze it, just to repeat it. At first, many laughed, saying it seemed silly. But something began to change. They started to act differently. One of them told me that without realizing it, he started tracking his expenses. Another said he renegotiated an old debt. A woman reported that after writing this phrase for weeks, she finally had the courage to charge a client who owed her for months. None of them received money out of thin air. They simply began to behave in accordance with the new self-image they had created. And when the mind changes, behavior changes. When behavior changes, results change. The human brain is a coherence machine. It does everything to align external reality with the internal image. That's why if you see yourself as disorganized, it will create distractions. If you see yourself as a loser, it will sabotage your victories. But if you see yourself as prosperous, your mind will work silently to manifest that prosperity. You begin to attract different people, connect with different ideas, see possibilities where you once only saw limits. This isn't mysticism. It's neurological programming. For years, I've observed that financially confident people don't speak of problems. They speak of challenges. They don't say, "I don't have money." They say, "I haven't found the right way to generate it yet." They don't say, "I can't." They say, "How can I?" This small linguistic difference changes the mental structure, and the mental structure changes reality. Prosperity doesn't start in the bank statement. It starts in your inner dialogue. It is there that you decide who you will be, the creator of your own fortune or the prisoner of fear. And if you truly wish to change your financial life, you need to understand that every thought about money is a command. Every phrase you repeat is an order your brain obeys. Tell yourself it's difficult and it will prove it to be so. Say it's possible and it will open doors. Science confirms what spirituality has always taught. What you believe, you create. Neuroscience has merely given a new name to what the law of attraction already explained, that everything begins within. Money isn't the starting point, it's the result. It follows the vibration of your mind. When you change the frequency of your belief, the entire universe will reorganize itself to respond to this new identity. Because the external world is nothing more than an exact reflection of your innermost conviction. By now, perhaps something within you has already begun to stir. Perhaps a small voice is saying, "Yes, it is possible." And that's exactly how all transformation begins, with a seed of consciousness. Because what you've heard here today isn't just about money, it's about liberation. It's about breaking the invisible cycle that keeps so many people trapped in fear, guilt, and limitation. So if something resonated with you, if at any point in this video you felt a desire to change, I want to ask just one thing. Share this video with someone else who needs to hear this too. It could be a friend, a family member, someone you know has potential, but doesn't yet believe in themselves. Sometimes a single message can be the push that changes the course of an entire life. I sincerely thank you for being here with me. Keep seeking, keep expanding, keep believing. And I'll see you in the next video.